Okay, guys, let's try it again. Here we go. Very quiet, please. Caliber. Action.
Action. The very mention of the word sends chills down the spine of actors, actresses, and crew people throughout the motion picture industry. It symbolizes that single, intense moment when everything from props to effects must fall together perfectly to be forever recorded on celluloid. Most average audiences have never known what that feeling is like until now, when we take you on a journey behind the scenes of a current crop of action, adventure, and horror films. Films like The Gripping, Death Wish 3, The Haunted, intriguing House, and the chilling action-packed Runaway Train. In the world of cinema, rarely is anything original. There are only new ways of looking at the same familiar subjects. If the violent, gritty impact of the popular Dirty Harry and Death Wish films were traced to their beginnings, we'd find ourselves in the 1940s viewing detective films. These classic films gave birth to the harsh realism of today. Death Wish 3 parallels the true life story of New York vigilante Bernard Goetz, who gunned down 4 youths when they assaulted him on a subway train. In this action thriller, Charles Bronson returns to the streets as moviegoers' favorite vigilante, Paul Kersey.
I don't know what was in Goetz's mind, and I don't know what was in the minds of those who were shot at. But I do know what was in the mind of Paul Kersey, the character I played in Death Wish 1. And I can only go by that, and the way I acted the part.
Director Michael Winner has a similar viewpoint about the New York vigilante issue, which has become a controversial point for Death Wish 3.
Prior to that, it was more or less a dramatic concept that everyone wanted to do. Now someone has actually done it. The people are now being asked to consider whether this act was justifiable or not. This is a most interesting thing, and of course will cause great debate, great discussion, and has to help, dare I say it, a film which is about exactly a private citizen doing those things.
Since the 1914 Charlie Chaplin classic, The New Janitor, our hero need not fight alone. In this scene, Charlie saves the day with the help of a trusty handgun. Times haven't changed all that much. In Death Wish 3, Bronson relies on a phenomenal device called the Wildy handgun.
Fires a .475 Wildy Magnum.
First developed by Wildy Moore, the weapon is the most powerful handgun ever made, and this is the first time it has ever been used in a feature film.
I had developed a system to function a handgun using a gas-operated system, which is standard on all military long guns. And I patented it and subsequently founded a company in '75 to put the design into production. And it evolved into this. And the advantages of a gas system are you can handle tremendous power and it's extremely light recoil. So this is the most powerful handgun ever put into production.
Bronson must rehearse his every move with the handgun down to the split-second timing for this scene in which he sets up a thief. The Wildy gun is streamlined and designed for maximum maneuverability. However, one dangerous slip could send one of the custom-made blanks into the wrong direction. As demonstrated here, we understand why Bronson needs no other assistance in cleaning up the neighborhood.
What were you looking at? Caught you in the ice cream.
The chief developers of American silent comedy, Max Sennett and Hal Roach, both owed a great deal of their slapstick success to their unforgettable car chases. These hilarious forerunners began a long string of chase films. Almost every chase scene to follow in the world of cinema is in one way or another compared to these early slapstick greats. The film Grace Quigley is no exception. The controversial film stars four-time Oscar winner Katharine Hepburn and rugged leading man of the 80s, Nick Nolte.
Here's rehearsal. See if there's a way. Right, Michelle, guys, collect, duck down. Thank you. Here's rehearsal and action on the stairs.
Hepburn does all of her own stunts in the film, which included being tossed around in the back floor of a speeding car, riding the streets of New York on a motorcycle.
It's smoking.
It's no use. The crankcase is busted. Get off.
Or running in and out of a skidding limousine.
Move it.
Just gonna lower. All right, well, let's get it on for Mary.
For the climactic chase, cameras are mounted on the back of a truck in order to shoot throughout the entire course of the scene. Sharp curves must be planned ahead of time in order to keep actor Nick Nolte in the shot. Then the reverse coverage is made from Nick's point of view. The short adventurous scene will only last a few minutes on the screen. Here's how it plays in the old-time slapstick tradition. One of the most exciting chases to hit the screen this year doesn't take place on any street, but on an icy train track in Alaska and Montana. On location among beautiful snow-capped mountains for the shooting of the fast-paced, high-adventure film Runaway Train, we discover just how important the second unit is on a film that is loaded with dangerous stunts. The second unit is responsible for shooting the footage which doesn't require the presence of the principal actors or the director, such as stunts. Danger is always the key factor, and there can never be too much preparation. No one realizes this more than the second unit director and stunt coordinator, Max Clevin.
You're in life and death situations almost every time you go out and shoot. It's not like a first unit where it only happens a couple of times during the whole shoot. That's all I do is dealing with those kind of situations. So you check yourself and double check, and you know, it's a large part of what you do.
For this scene, actor John Voight's stunt double, Russell Sahlberg, is dragged underneath a speeding train as it races over treacherous, icy, snow-covered tracks at a high speed.
Every stunt is difficult. The most difficult thing about a stunt is selling it for the realism with the safety involved.
The camera, operated by Tom Priestley, is mounted on a track-level platform that has been especially rigged for this shot. Sahlberg also needs some special rigging for this strenuous stunt.
You have to rig him out to the end of his arm, and he has a drag vest on right here, because if you were just to try and hold on with your hands, it would be impossible.
Give me some with both hands.
After
up.
numerous preparations, Sahlberg gets his final instructions from Max Clevin.
And then it slips away from you. One hand comes down like you're hanging on with one hand.
You got it. Now he's ready for a very dangerous take.
Start the train. Stand by and rolling camera. Okay, action, Russell. Okay, bend your knees a little, fight it. Fight it a little more, you're trying to get up. Okay, now drop back, that's good. You all right, Russell? Yeah, fine. That's a cut. What? That's a cut. Yeah, I know. Okay, we'll stop and then hook Russell.
The stunt's a success. So now let's join the first unit team in the Pan Pacific building back in Hollywood. The building is being used as a soundstage where the close-ups of Voight are shot and which will later be combined with the stunt footage. Star of such noted films as Midnight Cowboy, Coming Home, for which he won an Academy Award, and The Champ, actor Jon Voight works under the guidance of accomplished Russian director Andrei Konchalovsky. Konchalovsky most recently directed Maria's Lovers with Natasha Kinski and the Cannes Film Festival winner, Siberiad. Both men have wanted to work together ever since Voight first brought Andrei to America, and this film will be their much-anticipated first collaboration.
And shoots the fingers that slips. When you're slipping down, these fingers, there's really two fingers there. Grab two fingers. I think he's a tremendous actor, and he brought his personality that combines very childish-like openness and ferociousness. Kind of, he doesn't afraid to be pathetic.
In this film, Voight and co-star Eric Roberts play hardened criminals who cunningly escape from a penitentiary. Uncomfortable makeup and a heavy padded costume add to the difficulty of performing his stunts.
I had this padding on, and then we would work sometimes with snow machines in a studio, in a hot studio. And here I had this, you know, several pounds of padding on, which was like wearing a winter coat. And then on top of that, I had clothes to protect Manny from the severe cold of Alaska, which means this guy, I was like I was like losing pounds every day. And I started out lean, you know what I mean? So I was in a lot of trouble. Under that suit, the man was getting smaller and smaller.
Here, Voight overcomes the costume, the discomfort of a chipped set of fake teeth, and makeup for a swollen eye as he completes the stunt. After being brutally dragged, he climbs up from under the speeding train. After this footage is combined with what the second unit has shot in Alaska, this is what the completed sequence looks like as Jon Voight's character, Manny, saves himself from near death on the out-of-control runaway train. This stunt has been completed, but the second unit team in Alaska has only just begun their incredible task. They have a harrowing list of death-defying stunts that they must perform in and around the beast-like locomotive. For this scene, Prison Warden Rankin's assistant climbs down a ladder which hangs from a helicopter in hot pursuit of the train. He must land on top of the engine, then fall forward off the nose and crash through a windshield. For this dangerous scene, the part of the assistant is played by stuntman Walter Wyatt. To perform this stunt, a false ladder, which will appear to be coming from the moving helicopter, is hung from a support system hooked on a train tunnel. Stuntman Wyatt must appear to land safely on top of the engine, then accidentally fall, landing on several thick mats, while at the same time breaking the engine's windshield. The camera is positioned just behind the windshield, which is constructed of breakaway glass that will give when Wyatt crashes through. Wyatt will try again, this time aiming toward his target, the windshield. The crew is nervous, especially when it comes to multiple attempts at a dangerous stunt. Each attempt raises the odds that something could go wrong.
Action, Walter! Cut it! Damn, you all right, Walt? Yeah.
The stunt's a success, and here is the finished scene as Rankin and his men prove their desire to capture Manny at any cost. Stunt coordinator Max Clevin explains the difficulties in putting together such sequences.
Well, that's the tricky thing, is knowing how you're going to build the sequence. I mean, it's different than directing actors. You got to know how you're going to build it. And of course, it's a combination of knowing lenses and film speeds, and you know, as you know, we lie a lot with the camera to give the illusion of.
The second unit has completed its location shooting. These talented individuals work together as a team to produce exciting action. D.W. Griffith's Intolerance was the most expensive film of its day in 1916. For the Babylonian sequence, a life-size replica of the city of Babylon was built on 254 acres. 200-foot walls surrounded the set, and 60,000 extras were used in this spectacular film. Even today, with easy access to all corners of the world, filmmakers sometimes choose to rebuild existing locations. Such was the case in Death Wish 3. After shooting was completed in the real New York, filmmakers moved to this section of London near director Michael Winner's native home. This vast area in London has been amazingly transformed into a gritty, low-rent section of New York City. An old Victorian hospital had been torn down, leaving a 4-acre area. Set designer Peter Mullins reconstructed it in only 11 weeks' time to represent a shockingly realistic modern-day New York neighborhood.
Put up 3 or 4 buildings which were based on American reference that we had, which incorporated interiors, laundromats, supermarkets, that kind of thing. Then we brought in rubble, because we noticed that for most of the reference that we had, there was rubble everywhere, graffiti everywhere, old cars, burnt out wrecks of refrigerators, anything you like. We did all that. We brought all that in, making sure that most of it was as American, and if it wasn't, we put American stickers on it or brand names on it. We had roughly 60 men working for us, a 6-day week, and that meant starting at 8 o'clock in the morning, going through to 6:30 at night. So that was quite a lot of man hours involved. Outside contractors were involved that made staircases, that made lighting fixtures or some of the buildings. Special signs, neon signs, things were made by outside contractors.
Here a contractor discusses the renovation of the area with set designer Mullins. Objects Americans take for granted had to be either flown in or created in London. Traffic lights, automobiles, and fire hydrants are all totally different than what is commonplace in England. Models are analyzed and detailed for authenticity. From looking at this finished scene, you'd never guess you were in London, England. The enormous set for Runaway Train was the end product of intricate planning and construction by production designer Stephen Marsh and his crew. The 4 engines used were rebuilt in halves which could then be linked together to achieve almost any angle for the camera. The engines are completely life-sized and rest on air tires that will enable crew members to rock and twist them as if to look on an actual track.
Okay, let's have the rockers going.
A rear screen projection system is employed to give the illusion of fast travel in the snowy, jagged mountains. One major problem that has to be overcome is how to get the effect of extreme cold and hazardous blizzards while shooting inside the historic Pan Pacific building in the heart of Hollywood. To start, the railings and the cable of the train are coated with housing insulation foam, then hand-painted and weathered to look like snow. The train travels over a great distance in the film and encounters many obstacles, none of which stops its out-of-control engines. Ice has to appear frozen solid. For this trick of nature, clear plastic cellophane is dipped in a casting resin, then applied to the metal and machinery. The realistic icicles look good enough to eat, but the clear crystals are actually breakaway glass solution melted down and dripped into place. The train should appear to be moving, so a thick canvas is stretched over 2 cores and propelled by an automobile engine which reaches the same speed as the actual train, 80 miles per hour. The realistic effect is startling as it forms a conveyor belt which is painted to look like snow and passing obstacles. The heavy iron train tracks are actually painted foam rubber. Finally, to make a blizzard, bits of plastic and styrofoam pellets are tossed in front of a huge fan, resulting in instant blizzard. Co-star of the film, Rebecca De Mornay, also had to endure heavy winter clothing and makeup to heighten the believability of the special effects. Her brave spirit even wins the approval of her co-star, John Voight.
This lovely girl, Rebecca, turns out to be this incredibly courageous stunt lady. She did a stunt. That stunt was really a difficult stunt, and you had to have a tremendous amount of trust because she was falling backward and had to fall just right. If she fell too far, she'd flip over and get hurt, and hurt either way. If she fell short, she'd get hurt.
Rebecca plays the pivotal role of Sarah in the film. She's a blue-collar railroad worker who accidentally finds herself on board the runaway train with 2 escaped convicts. In this scene, she helps to save one of the convicts, Buck, portrayed by Eric Roberts, as they cross between 2 speeding engines. Her stunt is dangerous as she falls backwards, landing on a bed of brake cables which swing between the locomotives.
She grabs
Yeah, okay.
and she can let her legs come up. But that she can do without getting hurt because we've rigged this to catch her.
The cables are covered with a padding, then disguised with fake snow to break Rebecca's fall.
To me, it was exciting. It appealed to my sense of danger. Andre was much more scared than me. He was there. He was just chewing. He was like, oh, my God. You know, I was excited by it. That was a lot of fun. I really, John Voight said he thought maybe I had like a second career as a stunt woman, because I was, in a way. It was really thrilling.
Here she works out the final preparations with the director before attempting the stunt. Makeup is applied to give her a more ruddy, cold look. Then the scene is rehearsed one last time.
More! Ah, okay.
Are you okay, baby? Good for you.
Was good.
Over 500 cans of fake spray snow were utilized throughout the shooting of the wintry film. Andre gives a last-minute shot to Rebecca's costume before the cameras roll. After several tries, Rebecca pulls through as a genuine stunt woman. And now let's take a look at how the special effects and actors work in tandem in this scene from Runaway Train. Rebecca's stunt is quite a feat for a non-professional stunt person. But for a skilled stuntman, Don Pike, a rip-roaring trip through a fireball is more his speed. The film is Invasion USA, and Pike's job is to barrel over 3 parked cars as his truck explodes. But first, he mentally prepares himself for the incredible feat.
Okay, at this point, I've gotten my 20 miles an hour up. Now I have to key myself in on the ramp. And I have to hold it on the ramp. My speed will be okay by the time I hit my position. I gotta press the button as soon as I hit the ramp. There's gonna be one explosion and then mine. One explosion and mine.
Pike drives a truck and completes a hair-raising chase before he hits a pipe ring and the explosions are set off. From here, he twists end over end, upside down and backwards, soaring over 3 parked cars and then landing safely. The stunt was dreamed up by stunt coordinator Aaron Norris, the brother of the star of the film, Chuck Norris.
Each stunt is different in its own way, and never are there 2 stunts exactly alike. So you have to, in this film especially, I'm trying to do action that is as close to realism as it can be. In this film, I'm trying to do some of the biggest stunts in the history of stunts as well.
Okay, let's go. We're all cameras. When you're all rolling. Background action. Action, Don. Action, action, action.
The expansive fireball was 80 to 100 feet in height and required the local fire department present to extinguish the blaze. Here's what the stunt looks like on film in the spectacular stunt-filled Invasion USA. The 1940 film, The Thief of Baghdad, had 4 directors by the time the picture was completed. By today's standards, that's a little unusual. However, in action-adventure films, it's become commonplace for the director to work in close contact with the stunt coordinator, who sometimes even takes over the direction on certain intricate sequences.
Now turn right towards camera, a tad this way. Open up a little more. Turn towards me. There we go. Shoot the gun!
The public's high demand for bigger thrills and more action has forced directors like Michael Winter to attempt grander stunts under the advice of his stunt coordinator on Death Wish 3, Ernie Orsatti.
The stunts are bigger in this one, size-wise. Cars exploding and full fire gags and automatic weapons and bigger weapons with killing power, and so it's more apropos to today because things are more hellacious.
The working relationship is important between director and stunt coordinator, especially in a scene like this one, in which the leading lady's car rolls down a steep hill and explodes after striking another car broadside. In Deborah Raffin's dramatic last scene from the film, she is assaulted and left injured in a white sedan. The sedan is then rolled down a steep hill where it will collide with another car in an exciting explosion. To achieve the effect, first the cars are shot just missing each other by a hair at the bottom of the hill. Next, a skilled stuntman, Rick Seaman, will man the white car and steer it down the hill, where it will careen into another pre-positioned stationary car. Finally, after the collision, the last vital detail to the sequence is completed. Both cars are charged with explosives and shudder into roaring flames. With the help of multiple cameras and creative editing, the explosion is heightened on film. Here is the thrilling scene from the final film, which combines all 3 parts of the stunt sequence. Another one of the most deadly stunts to capture on film is the full-body burn. Director Michael Winter, who directed both Death Wish 1 and 2, must compromise and negotiate the scene with stunt coordinator Orsatti.
You discuss them, you hone them down, you change them a bit, he changes what I have in mind. At the moment of a stunt, everyone has to be very much as one, because if you're not, and not very well organized, someone's going to get hurt.
Luckily, no one gets hurt in this well-planned, full-body burn performed on the screen by one of the foremost firemen in the film business, Gene Hartline.
Right, now we're going to do a burning man. A burning man.
A special solution which will burn on contact is applied to Gene's protective fireproof clothing. The solution, similar to rubber cement, will ignite, but the suit underneath will keep Hartline protected. This burn is unusual because no face appliance will be worn for protection.
Keep rolling.
It looks so real. And he's supposed to be hit by a Molotov cocktail. Well, he could as well have been hit by a Molotov cocktail and been ignited. And that kind of realism fits this movie.
Stunt falls date back to the very beginning of Hollywood films. In Death Wish 3, A few new twists have been added as the street punks battle the cops, assisted by our hero, Charles Bronson. Take a look at these timeless tricks, updated with a dash of modern road warrior style. The talented Lon Chaney was a pioneer in the field of special effects when he portrayed Quasimodo in the silent classic, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. He withstood hours of makeup preparation, including fake teeth, facial bones, and a large hump molded for his back. Much of the makeup he designed and applied himself. In the physically strenuous film, he learned to maneuver his character in sync with his deformities. Movie monsters have changed since the early silent era, as is the case with my new horror film, House. This spooky scene has little to do with tricky makeup, however. It's invisible string that holds the scene together. Shears, hose, clipper, and shovel are all made to levitate in the haunted room by the use of good old-fashioned wire. Each tool had to be placed perfectly in position in order to be realistically photographed. Here, they are hung and supported by a wood frame similar to that used with marionette puppets. A flat, clear spray is applied to sections of the wire to block out the glare from the movie lights. An effects man stands on a ladder manipulating the floating tools and making them move towards me as I open the door.
Marty, you went in too far. Cut.
I went in too far?
Give me something to look at. This comes across in the foreground.
Uh-huh.
And then comes in.
Let's take a look at that. Bang. Blast the bastard.
And finally, to complete the scene, another effects man is positioned just below the camera's view to handhold a menacing shovel, which he will swing at my face.
Bastard.
My part isn't exactly easy either. I have to react to strings, effects crew, and a camera staring down my nose.
Okay, and
Is
do
it
it.
speed?
Big. No, we can't open it. And the door opens, and tools.
Working with special effects, the secret of that for me is the training that I received in theater, because you bring a lot of that to the movie set. A lot of it is imagination and being able to think real quick on your feet.
My character, Roger Cobb, must think quick on his feet in this scene from House. Later in the film, the tools reappear and do Roger a big favor, getting rid of a bothersome purple witch. The witch was designed by effects wizard James Cummins, who headed the creation of almost all of the impressive house creatures.
Roger's wife, Sandy, shows up at the door and turns into this creature. And she takes a lot of abuse in the film, the witch. She gets her head chopped off, she gets beat with a shovel, and she gets just pretty much dragged around a lot. And he finally does eventually kill her.
Before beginning the long weeks of creating the intricate beasts, the effects crew draws detailed illustrations of each monster. The witch has a fully articulated mechanical face that is cable-controlled by veteran effects man Bill Sturgeon.
Yeah, don't you move your mouth. Just talk through your teeth. And eyes wide and go.
There's a kid. You go.
Cut.
That's a good.
weight of the costume was extremely uncomfortable, and he had to be let free to breathe and stretch every few hours, much to his relief.
I can breathe again. I feel like dancing.
The director of the film, Steve Miner, was pleased with the comedic, yet creepy results the witch added.
The design of the effects were always planned to be the sort of low-tech variety. And to shoot it with the limitations that gives you, you shoot it that way. And it works in pieces, you know. It's basically a manner of puppeteering.
In one of the scenes of the film, horror novelist Roger Cobb discovers the witch he chopped up and buried in the backyard hasn't totally kicked the bucket.
I'm kind of busy right now. I think that I'm kind of... Where you going, little fella? Stay here. I'll get him.
Roger?
Oh, stop! Robert! Come here, Robert. Robert, come here. I got you. I got you.
Robert? Roger?
I got it.
Are you going? Roger? Robert?
Movie monsters have terrified audiences since the cameras first started to roll in the silent era. Even as far back as 1922, audiences were being horrified, particularly by the shocking Nosferatu, a silent feature directed by F. Murnau. The ingenious film was the first Dracula movie ever, and portrayed the Count using creepy, realistic makeup. Long fake fingernails were attached to the lead actor, as well as a shaved head, fake teeth, and pointed ears to achieve the creation of this gruesome monster. The film, as well as the makeup effects, were far ahead of their time. These tricks work believably on the audiences of the 20s, just as the terrifying beast in House stirs chills down the spine of today's audiences. The sculpture for this beast was designed by James Cummins and a skilled crew of some of the most talented effects masters in the business. The concept of the demon is a representation of Vietnam War victims who have returned from the grave to haunt Vietnam veteran Roger Cobb. In the film, the house has a terrifying power to conjure up the worst of its tenants' imagination. This beast is from Roger's imagination, and the making of it posed several problems.
It's a very thin sculpture, and it's very tight in here. There's not very much room to work with. It's also very heavy and very awkward. It has to come out of a closet, which is a limiting space, 36 inches, and it still has to look real powerful and real big and real menacing. And that was a little difficult.
The War Demon had to be in perfect working order only 4.5 months after its original conception. The large effects crew works on last-minute details before shooting one of the more difficult scenes.
Look for the brace, whatever's good for you. And the pipe is here. I think we're talking about up here.
The construction of the monster is mainly foam and polyurethane stretched over a sturdy metal skeletal structure. After final construction, it's then turned over to the mechanical crew headed by Bill Sturgeon. The crew then squeeze a workable system of pistons and tubes which are connected to an air compressor into the structure.
And get that left claw forward.
Swing the left hand in.
That was good. Do it once more, please.
Do that again. Flex the hand.
Controlling the creature's movements is difficult and complex. One misdirected blow by the strong metal arms could easily gouge the camera crew or myself.
Setting it up and shooting it is going to be very difficult. It has to be choreographed real carefully because he will deliver quite a blow to somebody if they're standing in front of him.
I work with Director Miner in this scene where Roger must do battle with the war demon. I have to be extra careful to avoid being injured by these hydraulic metal arms.
Effects are very difficult, and especially this variety of what we call floor effects. Stuff that's done live on the set are tricky. And like I said, you just shoot a lot of stuff and piece it together later.
Common marker.
Ready, set, go. Yeah, that's what I thought too. 53, too much smoke. Camera reloading.
An enormous amount of footage is shot during the scene, covering many different angles. In the editing room, only the shots in which the beast looks alive and powerful will be used. This scene is a vital one. All the elements must fall together to give House its frightening, realistic tone. In the scene, actor George Wendt plays the nosy next-door neighbor, Harold.
One more, right away, please.
He comes over to the house one night after I've befriended him, and I convince him to come upstairs and help me try and catch this monster that's in the closet. Although I don't tell him that it's a monster, I convince him that it's a big raccoon.
Rolling the sound. Hey, guys, very quiet. Big.
Common marker.
And action monster. Shoot it again! I can't fly till attach. Well, do something.
On screen, the scene will play in short cuts, which will heighten the terror.
Hello. Hi. Hi, here's the beer.
Here's how the long, hard hours paid
beginning.
off in the completed segment, which is less than 3 minutes long.
Here to watch a movie. You didn't?
No.
You got some,
Yeah, let's go upstairs for a minute, Harold.
Yeah.
You ever been hunting?
Sure.
Do you remember the other night when I told you I saw something?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I must have been a little hysterical because it wasn't a ghost. It was a raccoon.
Really?
A big raccoon. About the size of a St. Bernard.
Cujo the raccoon.
I got him trapped right now. They're in the closet. You're not afraid of raccoon, are you?
Me? No. No. What would you like me to do? I'll help.
You ever seen one of these before?
Yeah, sure, every day. What is it?
This is my uncle's harpoon gun.
Mm-hmm.
Take it.
Great.
I have a line attached here to a rod. In case it tries to get out through the roof, you can hold on to the thing.
Oh, what, the roof? What?
Tore up a big hole in the roof, so he goes out through the attic and he feeds at night. And then he comes back in here and he builds a nest in the closet.
Honestly?
You better put these on. Now, the minute you see this thing, I want you to fire and hit him right between the eyes. If you don't kill him, Harold, he's probably going to try and get away, so I want you to hold on very tight. You got that? Okay, now come over here and stand right there so you get a real good shot at it.
Yeah.
And so we time everything perfect. I'm going to open the door at exactly 12 o'clock.
Right.
Okay? Oh, one more thing. Make sure I'm out of the way before you shoot that thing.
You got it.
Here we go. Ready?
Shoot it, Harold! Shoot
It's getting away! Harold, what the hell? Help me! What can I do? Grab onto me! Don't let go! Don't worry, Roger. I'll hold on to you up at the last minute.
The scenes have been shot, edited, and now move on to their final test, the audiences of America. The public is always the final and most important judge of a piece of film, either as art or as an industry. The action is finished for House, Runaway Train, and Death Wish 3. But the future holds a constant supply of other projects that are right now being developed. Next time you view them at home or in your local theater, you will know that gut feeling right before the cameras roll. The feeling shared only by actors and directors and production crews. It's a thrill when you know everything's on the line and you hear the director say,
Action!